G'day guys, Butcher Benny T here with another video. In this one I'm going to show you how much a lamb yields from paddock to plate. So we'll work him out from a live lamb, what he is hanging before he's actually scun and dressed out, and then we'll have a look at what he weighs once he is scun and dressed out in the cool room. And then I'll leave him hang for a week, and we'll come back in a week. We'll weigh him before I cut him up, and then I'll cut him up into all these different chops and legs and roasts, etc. And we'll see exactly how much meat a lamb yields from running around in the paddock to actually hitting the plate. Anyway, we'll get started and let's see how well they go. Rightio, so you can see here, here's a full lamb. I've just dispatched. This will be his minus probably a kilo or two of blood. This is his carcass weight from running around paddock. So we'll have a look. There he is. It's a full lamb, and he's coming at 54.5 kilos. So I'll go ahead now. I'll whip the skin and the guts out of him, and we'll see what he weighs once he's out of his jacket. So I've just knocked the skin off him and the guts out of him. So there he is. There's a dressed carcass, all nice and clean. No kidneys, no liver, all clean. And he's come out at 31.5 kilos. So we'll hang him in the cool room for a week now. Get him out, weigh him again once he's hung for a week. See how much you lose just in the hanging time. And then we'll cut him up and find out exactly how much meat we end up with off a lamb. Righto guys, so I'm back here a week on from when we killed the lamb. I've already cut a few lambs up here this morning. I'll get the scale set up on the rail in the cool room, and we'll have a look at what he weighs now after a week of hanging, and then we'll get in and cut him up and see how we go. Rightio, so here's the exact same lamb we put in a week ago to the day. That's what he weighed when we put him in, and this is what he weighs now, 31. So we'll get him out, get him on the bench, cut him up, and see how well he yields in chops and roasts. Rightio, so we'll get started. I'm just going to cut him into basic cuts. This is just a guide on how it'll yield. I'm going to cut the 4/4 into chops, take a few neck chops off, take the ribs for spare ribs, take the cutlets out. We won't cut them into racks, we'll just cut it into cutlets. Loin chops, we'll do chunk chops, we'll do a couple of legs. Anyway, we'll get started and we'll see how he comes up. trim and the cuts after I've got all these cut up. So obviously you're losing whatever fat you're trimming out as you go. We'll weigh everything at the end just to see how it goes. That again. Take this pelvic bone out of the chubbies. One out. There's a little bit of skirt and stuff in the chunk, take that out. So this is all stuff you don't see happen like if you're buying out of a shop or whatnot. You don't actually see what's coming off at prize or prize like in the butcher shop display or a supermarket. This is going to give you a pretty good idea of exactly how much meat you do get off a lamb. Cutlets. Take that joint bone off the back there. Piece of bone. There. I'll display all this, trim it all up, display it all at the end, and we'll put it all on the scales. So you can see exactly what each cut looks like and what I've done. Yellow white cutlets. Take a little bit of scapula out of there, stuffing this up on one of the cutlets there. This was a second cross weather lamb, so cutting up weathers you yield a bit better than cutting up ewes. Ewes carry a bit more fat on than the weathers, so sort of take that into account as well when you're cutting up. This is a weather, so he's always going to yield a little bit better than a ewe. Get the ribs now. Take that last bit out of there, that's just a little bit of trim. You can trim it out mainly for just lamb mince or sausages, that sort of stuff. If you wanted to get really keen and trim it right out lean, you can lamb it up for just plain lamb mince. Take that cap bit off there. Do a little bit more fat here. Then we'll just cut the ribs. bone out of that. Trim. There. The fat. Take this little piece of bark off the top of these again. As I say, this is all stuff you don't see happen with the meat blind. This is all behind closed door stuff. So when you look at your lamb, which is expensive, but when you look at what it is actually trimmed off prior to hitting the shelf, you can see that there is a fair bit of waste as such. Not that it all gets wasted, but that's why the others have got to make up for what they're losing in fat and bone. Anyway, I'll run these loin chops and chump chops through the saw and we'll get it all trayed up and have a look. I'll just take a minute to get all this trayed up and displayed, and we'll get it on the scales and have a look how it weighs out. Righto, so here's the breakdown of what I've just done. I've ended up with 1.7 kilos of chump chops, 2.07 kilos of loin chops, 1.75 kilos of cutlets. Now we've got 3 trays of barbecue chops here, because obviously the shoulders are a pretty big part of the lamb. 6.52 kilos of the barbecue 4/4 chops. Then we got 960 grams in the shanks, 720 grams in the neck chops, 970 grams in the ribs, and we've got our legs, which is 6.37 kilos. And this is all the stuff that you don't actually eat. So we got 2.76 kilos of bone, 2.37 kilos of trim, which you can use. You could trim it out for mince or sausages or whatnot, so it's not a complete waste. And then the fat is 3.65 kilos of the fat. So that's how that all worked out. You can see all the cuts there. Quite a nice lamb. I did trim the chops up a bit more off camera, but you can see exactly what we've got there. Righto guys, so I've just come home after cutting that lamb up and done a few calculations here. So as you can see here, the lamb's live weight when we started, he was 54.5 kilos. Then we went on and we scanned him and gutted him and left him hanging for a week, and after that he came in at 31 kilos. So the total percentage yield from him live running around the paddock to dead on the hook was 56.88%. Then we went on and we cut him up. So before we cut him up, obviously again he was 31 kilos. The total edible cuts, our chops, roasts, etc., including the trim, 23.43 kilos. Then the waste, there's 6.41 kilos of the fat and bone, which you can't do anything with that. So our total percentage yield was 75.58% of edible cuts from the lamb. And so that brings us to our yield from pretty much from paddock to plate as we set out from. So from the lamb runner end of the paddock to cut up to what you actually get to eat, 42.99% of edible meat from the lamb. Rightio guys, so that concludes the video on me demonstrating how much lamb yields from paddock to plate. Hopefully you've learned something, or I know I've always had people ask me the question, how much does the lamb actually yield from running around in the paddock to the edible cuts. So this is going to be an easy way to show them. Hopefully it helps you guys. As I said, different lambs yield differently. That was a weather lamb, second cross weather lamb. Ewes, as I said in the video, they do yield a bit less, depending on how much fat you trim off, but they're always a bit fatter, so they yield a bit less. But anyway, thanks again for watching. Like, share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and cheers for watching guys. Good on you.